Donald Trump showed the tariffs the other day. I'll show you the chart again. He showed the chart, okay? And they specifically had this part where it said tariffs charged to the USA. And I spoke about this on the podcast, spoke about it yesterday, but I just want it super clear where this number comes from because it is not tariffs charged to the USA. This title is incorrect, okay? It's just not true. The calculation has been figured out. Like people have found it and it matches 1-to-1 with all of these. It's this, okay? They take the amount we import from that country. So let's say it's Vietnam. The amount we import from them minus the amount we export to them divided by the amount we import. What this means is we just buy more from Vietnam than they buy from us. That's all it's saying. What was extra funny though, which is why it's so funny to me, because that is the formula. I'm not changing, I'm not exaggerating. That is the exact formula they used to get every one of these numbers. It's not based on what tariffs they actually have. It's just based on who buys more from who. Understandable, that's not a tariff. That doesn't make any sense. For example, Japan has extremely low tariffs on American goods. They just buy more, or we buy more of their stuff than they buy of us. So they say we have they have a high tariff on us. They don't. Our goods can sell there at cost. We can sell cars in Japan. I understand that's very silly. Now, what they did though, when people pointed this out, was one of the people behind it got kind of huffy on Twitter and said, no, there's a more complicated formula here. And they post this fancy looking formula that I have isolated here. Okay. Now I'm going to copy this formula into Paint and I'm going to show you a little bit more about it. So this is the formula. So what do you think X1 is in this chart? Well, it turns out this is exports. What do you think MI is in this chart? Turns out that's imports. That's imports. So what are these fancy things? Well, it turns out this, I don't even know the Greek symbol for it is, but this stands for 4. This is epsilon and this one's, what is this? Phi? Phi stands for 1/4. So these two cancel each other out and it's exports minus imports divided by imports. I am not kidding. Imports times 1. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to, this is actually this formula. This is a joke. This is a fucking joke. That is the formula. It's export minus import divided by import. It has nothing at all to do with the tariffs they're charging us, which is leading to these wildly out of whack situations. I mean, with us putting 40% tariffs on the Falkland Islands and shit, it doesn't make any sense. Just because we buy squid from them, they don't buy anything from us because there's only 3,000 people there. What are they going to buy from us? Boeing jets? And to my understanding, and this is not confirmed, my understanding is they presented a couple options to Trump himself of how they wanted to structure the tariffs. And one of them, they had done their research on basically what tariffs were actually being charged on us and what those reciprocal tariffs could be. And he picked this one. This is the one he wanted. And this is the most nonsensical one. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I have no steel man for this. It's a really foolish decision. And I already made a video on this, so I don't need to continue, but I just want that to be fully understood that is the actual formula. I'm not fooling. I'm not pulling a trick here. This is the formula from the website. This is the formula they talked about on Twitter. This is their formula. You can go, they haven't even taken this down and it's so embarrassing. This is the office of the United States. This is like Lutnick's office. This is, look, you can see it right here. Look, Sigma set at 4. Phi set at 0.25. You can see it right here. You can see it right here, dude. I'm not fucking with you. It literally is what I said. I'm not fucking with you. That's crazy. They cancel each other out. It might as well not exist. It's just making the formula look fancier, so you're not as embarrassed about it getting figured out. Anyway, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm gonna use a gaming example here because Kadrill's watching. Kadrill, if you're watching this clip. Kadrill, if you're watching this clip, I'm gonna use a League of Legends example, okay? Imagine you're on a League of Legends team with somebody. You're the top laner, right? And you're talking to the mid laner. And the mid laner is like, I wanna play Fizz, okay? And you're like, Fizz is not in meta. Fizz is not a good champion. You know, there's better champions you could pick. I don't like the choice of Fizz. But the guy goes ahead and plays Fizz anyway. Now, if this person is, let's say, a top 5 mid laner in the world, if they're really good at Fizz, at least there's a point. If the execution is good, maybe strategically it's not great, but at least they're playing good enough that you have a chance. But if they're picking Fizz and they're bronze, it doesn't even matter. Like whether or not their ideals are right, they'll never be able to prove if Fizz is good or not because the execution is so bad. That is what I don't agree with tariffs ideologically. But if Trump wants to pick fizz, you know, I'm all for non-standard picks. If he wants to pick fizz, you have to execute it at a world-class level to even have a chance. You have to be challenger level. You can't be iron out there doing everything willy-nilly and wrong, because then it doesn't matter if your pick's good or not. You'll never win anyway. That is what I'm trying to make an argument on, not just ideological differences, but executional differences. You have to have competence. You have to be, you know, smart and sharp and targeted and have a scalpel instead of a hatchet and understand it. If not, it doesn't matter what your argument is. It doesn't matter that you think fizz is actually good, because you're not good enough to use him. It's a skill gap. It's a skill gap more than anything. We're just getting skill gapped by like China, who's like the adult in the room. You know, and I think a great example of that, I don't know if I can explain this better. Let me see if I can show you a perfect example of that. This is China's Minister of Education. Let's look at his background. Computer science master's degree, doctorate, attended Columbia University, Chinese Academy of Sciences. He got the Legion of Honor by the French government. This is long history of education. Now, whether or not his tactics are 100% correct, it seems like he's a serious, intelligent man who's like working his hardest to what he thinks is the right idea for his country. Maybe I disagree with how they handle education in China. I mean, it's burning people out. There's like a high suicide rate among kids because there's such competition. But whatever, it's a plan. This is our Secretary of Education. She's Vince McMahon's wife. The World Wrestling Entertainment. She initiated the company's civic program, Smack Down Your Vote. She had a feud with her husband that culminated at WrestleMania X7. Even if her idea is better, which I don't think it is, but if it was, her execution is not there. She's not a competent enough person, a focused enough person, a background enough person to make this work. That is my argument, is that we can't even get to the level of disagreeing on ideologic stuff when there's not a competence, when there's not a seriousness. Don't shit on wrestling. Is that what I was doing? Oliver laid back. Is that what I was doing? Or was I possibly saying that being the head of the WWE's wife does not qualify you to run education for a 300 million person country. Turning into a corporatist. And you know what? Maybe it does qualify you. It's only because my vote was for The Undertaker. I voted for The Undertaker, okay? I thought he would fix the schooling system from the top ropes, dude. As a kid, I was pissed when The Undertaker didn't get his undefeated streak. Well, that's why we owe him as a country one chance to run shit. We owe him as a country he got screwed on this undefeated streak, and so let's put him in charge of some shit. One more chance. What is this Howard Lutnick clip? Bro, I'm getting sick of Howard Lutnick, I'll tell you that.
They won't take lobster in Europe or the UK. I mean, why won't they take American lobster?
Now. They do. They didn't for a while, but now they do.
They don't, because Downing Street said they're going to start with, they changed their trade policy, they're going to start having...
Let me just follow up with you. And by the way, in August 2020, the EU did agree to eliminate tariffs on fresh and frozen American lobsters. Just quick fact check there. But hold on.
They won't take lobster.
I saw him lie in real time because it was one of the first speeches he gave, this is a while ago, where he talked about Japanese tariffs on American cars. He's like, American cars can't compete in Japan because there's a tariff. And I was like, oh, that sounds weird. Why would they do that? They already have their own car companies that are successful. And then I looked into it and it was a lie. It was just not true. They don't have any tariffs on American cars. They just don't buy them. The only brand they like is Jeep. They buy Jeeps. Japan needs to buy Ford F-150s that are larger than the average Japanese living room. Why would the size of your living room matter for the size of your car? You just park outside. So this guy, Geiger Capital, said this in 24. No one other than fairly stupid partisans on the left thinks Trump is going to implement 20% tariffs on everything across the board. It aged poorly. It is a real tweet. And he recently said, I won't delete it, but I was wrong, which I think is honorable. I was wrong. He's done it. And then he spent all this time just shitting on these tariffs. Just absolutely fucking shitting on them. I'm not gonna say based because this guy still like supports GME and shit. Stupid finance shit, but at the very least didn't fucking backpedal. April 3rd, yesterday, was an equivalent downturn in the stock market to the day of 9/11. It wasn't as bad as COVID or the GFC, a little less than the dot-com crash, but it was the same as 9/11 impact on the market. It was a 9/11 to the market. Hey, Shrock, is it a good or a bad sign that I see more people angry about the Nintendo Switch pre-orders being passed due to tariffs than they were all about the constitutional stuff, including room doing rule? It's just called being people. It's not good or bad. It's just human nature. It's just how people work. I don't know. If you stress yourself out about it, you'll be stressed for your whole life and it will never change. Okay? It just, people are more attentive to the problems that directly affect them, and it will never change, and it's not worth getting stressed over. And honestly, if you want to see yourself as helping, then find a way to frame the problems in ways that directly affect them. Affect. Fuck, I said affect! My point, my nuanced point is now destroyed. Oh, I've been destroyed in the marketplace of ideas. I said affect. Hey, I have a thing to say about tariffs specifically. So one thing I think people didn't understand was like, let's say Nintendo wanted to have a higher price to bake in possible tariffs. They wanted to have a higher so they could absorb the increased cost from a tariff. People were like, well, that doesn't make sense because if it's $450, will the tariff be higher than if it was, why don't they make the price lower and then the tariff makes it go up to $450? Why wouldn't you have the price be $400 and then plus $50 tariff and then it's $450 rather than start at $450? And that is because that's a misunderstanding of how tariffs work. Tariffs do not charge you based on the MSRP. This is the MSRP that they charge at the store. Tariffs charge you based on the cost. I think it's cost in it's CIS value, I think. Let's say it costs $290 to make. That's cost. There's $5 for insurance. That's the I. And there's $5 for shipping. That's the S. And then you get the tariff on the $300. So if it's a 10% tariff, you will pay $30 plus $30. Tariff equals $330 to Nintendo. That's what they have to pay. That's what it costs them to make it and ship it and tariff it. And then they charge $450. Now, realistically, we don't know what it costs to make a Nintendo Switch, but it's something like this. And they baked in the $450 price to assume there's going to be a big tariff. Let's say it's plus, let's say it's 300 again. And Vietnam's tariff is 43%. So what is that? 20 something, 129, 46%, 120. Let's just say 129. 129. It's like a realistic amount. So that's 429, and they charge $450. You understand? So they baked in an expensive tariff into the cost so they can keep it this way and not to lower it. I think it's just worth understanding that basically the main thing you have to understand is that tariffs are charged on what it costs to make, not on what you charge for it. So you might charge a high price up front to be protected from having to raise it when you get a tariff. So you're saying cis is their gender. No, that's not what I'm saying. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. That's not a word that I said. Basically, what I'm saying is woke Tendo is trying to fucking tax the cisgender straight men, okay? And that's how you're getting fucked over by woke Tendo. But what's funny is, so I don't know if it's funny, but Nintendo delayed pre-orders because while they did predict there would be some tariffs, I don't think they predicted 43%, 46% on Vietnam where they're making all their Switches, and so they might still be losing money. And like, this calculation is napkin math. We don't know what this actually costs. It could easily be plus 129 or whatever this is. This could be 350 to make a Switch. I don't know what their profit is on a Switch, and so they baked in a little buffer room that might be overblown. They could be losing money on every Switch too. 43% of the cost added as a tariff is huge. That's massive. So they might be launching Switch 2 at a loss or having to. Anyway, what I think they're doing is they're delaying. Because look, they're not delaying the launch day. They're delaying the pre-orders. Because I think what they're going to try to do is hope that a deal gets made between Vietnam and America and Trump retracts the tariffs. I believe that is what they're hoping. They're hoping by the time they do an order, tariffs won't exist. They're trying to just wait it out because it's going to be unpopular so immediately. And Vietnam, again, does not tariff us. Despite what Trump's chart says, Vietnam does not have tariffs on the United States. Or maybe like they have a general purpose tariff on everything for like 9%, but it's not 80% that he said. So, it's just, it's hopefully it gets figured out. So Donald Trump, he put out, let's see if we can find it. I don't want to misrepresent. I literally want to show what it is. This is on his actual account. Okay. He tweeted this.
Crashing the stock market by 20% this month, but he's doing it on purpose. And this is why Warren Buffett just said Trump is making the best economic moves he's seen in over 50 years.
Right. So this is from Trump, and he truthed it. And that first part I saw, I was like already like a little suspicious. So I looked into it, and not only is that not true, but Warren Buffett had to immediately put out a press release saying it is false. And Warren Buffett never, ever gets involved in politics. It's just not true.
Now here's the secret game he's playing, and it could make you rich. So why is he doing this? to push cash into treasuries, which forces the Fed to slash interest rates in May, and those lower rates give the Fed the ability to refinance trillions of debt very inexpensively. Now you're probably wondering, what about his tariffs? Well, I'll tell you, it's a genius play. It actually forces companies to build here to dodge them. It also forces farmers to sell more of their products here in the US to bring grocery prices way down.
That's just not true. I believe he's impoverishing both groups, is what I will say. The people that own stocks or have 401ks are feeling the pain, but the pain is because of these massive tax increases, which what tariffs are, on the prices of regular goods. So the things you buy are going to get more expensive, and that hits poor people the hardest. The end of cheap goods is like horrendous for their bottom line. So it's really like a group impoverishment.